Prince William and Duchess Kate show off their dance moves in the Caribbean as their tour is met with protest.
And I think that, their feelings are probably very, very valid, and they have a long history and lots of frustrations that I'm sure they feel.
Meghan Markle is set to launch her podcast as the palace prepares for Queen Elizabeth to attend Prince Philip's memorial.
Yeah, I think that this is just a case where they are going to do absolutely everything to get her there. It is so important for her to be there.
And Stuart Pearce, author of Princess Diana, The Voice of Change, reveals that Prince Harry's upcoming memoir will not take aim at the royal family.
I feel the book will actually be candid, but it won't be excoriating. It won't rip the skin off anybody or burn anybody. There's far too much delicacy going on there.
We've got that plus so much more in today's Royally Us. Hello to our fellow royal lovers and welcome to Royally Us. I'm Christina, that's Christine, and welcome to another week of big royal news, Christine.
I know there's so much going on this week. It's really exciting. And I want to apologize. I'm recovering from a cold. So I think I sound terrible. So just bear with me.
I was going to say the same thing about myself. If I go into a coughing fit, I apologize. So
this will be a fun show, you and I trying to get through.
Exactly. Well, we'll get through it together. And before we get to all the news, we wanted to check in and see what you guys had to say about last week's show. Kicking it off with Arnold says Harry doesn't feel safe in the UK, period. Which I mean is, I guess, true, which is why he's not, maybe one of the reasons why he's not coming to Prince Philip's memorial.
It is interesting as we hear about more and more kings and queens and foreign royalty coming to this memorial that, it's interesting to weigh that against Harry's decision. And I think it is something he just does not feel comfortable being there, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, period. Not at all. There's probably a lot of different factors, but Jonesy says it's really sad to see the distance between the brothers. They used to be so close. Hopefully they can rebuild their relationship in the future. Yeah, like everything that we talk about, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know if they Zoom on the daily, talk on the daily. We don't know. But I mean, from what we hear, the distance is still between the two of them.
Yeah. And it's really difficult to hear those things that they are so distanced because we knew them as, very, very close.
Right. Yeah. And then finally, Mark Drew says, one thing I did notice was how relaxed everyone was at the Commonwealth Day service. I think Harry not being there did everyone a favor. I mean, compared to the last Commonwealth Day service, sure, yes. It was.
I think, yeah, definitely. Compared to the last one, it was very, very tense. But in general, it's a very joyful, upbeat service. So I think that this was more reflective of what it normally would look like.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's get into our royal roundup and kick it off with Kate and William's Caribbean tour. Love seeing the fashion, the fun that they're having on this tour so far. Now, this is on behalf of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. They showed off their dance moves in Belize. Take a look. Oh, always love seeing William rock a dance move. So funny.
Such a fun event. It's so silly. It must be very, they know that the cameras are on them. They know that, the world is going to see them, having a little shimmy. I had to laugh when I saw the video clips.
Oh,
They're clearly having fun.
So much fun. But the trip did have a bit of a rocky start. The pair were scheduled to visit a different cocoa farm in the foothills of the Maya Mountains, but it was canceled after villagers staged a protest about colonialism and the use of a football field by the royals for landing their helicopters. Villagers in Indian Creek were photographed on Friday with signs saying, "Prince William, leave our land." Now, it seems like this was more about, not really necessarily about the royals necessarily, but more about, about colonialism and things like that, about like what was kind of going on the ground.
Right. It was interesting to kind of hear more nuanced details about it. I guess it had to do with where they were landing the helicopter and the fact that the local government didn't really seek the permission of the local people. And I think that, their feelings are probably very, very valid, and they have a long history and lots of frustrations that I'm sure they feel. But I did hear an interesting point of view that was from the owner of the farm. And he said that meeting William and Kate would have been the honor of his lifetime, basically. And now he's lost out on that. So I found this a really interesting introspective of these royal events where they can, both highlight major issues like colonialism, but also, for that one farmer, it would have been so meaningful.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a shame, but they were able to move it to a different cocoa farm, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun together. They made some hot chocolate, which William said that his kids would be very jealous of.
Yes. I love the quotes that come out of these tours. Yeah. We always learn so much about them.
Yes, and they also look like total tourists when they visited the ruins. I was like, oh, mom and dad on vacation, totally.
Exactly, yeah. It's like them posing at the top with their hands on their hips.
I love that. And of course, everybody's talking about Kate's fashion, and she did give a little nod to Princess Diana on her first day of fashion choices with her jewelry, right?
Yes, yeah. She wore a stunning blue sapphire set that is kind of in that iconic Princess Diana style. It's rumored to be created from sapphires from Diana's personal collection. And it's so nice that, little bits of Diana are always carried out through William and Kate's work.
Yeah, it really is. And then, they're going to be heading to Jamaica and the Bahamas. So they have a nice little island getaway, which I'm sure is going to be a lot of fun.
So nice after what felt like a long kind of gray winter to see them in the tropics. Now the weather here is getting a bit nicer and sunnier. A lot of optimism, I think.
A lot of it, definitely. All right. Well, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are supporting the people of Ukraine. The Archewell Foundation announced that the pair have donated to several organizations working on the ground to support the Ukrainian people. In a statement, the couple said, all of us at Archewell have been inspired by the work of these organizations have taken on, and also by the stories from those on the front lines. Now, Prince Harry also thanked the Halo Trust, which is the humanitarian landmine removal. As we may recall, Princess Diana worked with the organization, and Harry has followed in the footsteps. Take a look.
You guys you're saving lives every single day. I know you're part of Halo, so that's exactly what you signed up to do. And I know that you're going to continue doing the work that is so desperately needed for Halo, for your families and for your country. How can we help? How can people help? What is the best way for people to help? Because there are so many people watching on feeling completely helpless.
Spreading the safety messages will help. The more people see them, the more people stay safe. You can donate to help our organization as well.
Yeah, obviously, this is something that has been that Harry has supported for quite some time. There's those those famous photos of Princess Diana walking through the landmines. Harry did it as well. And so now he is thanking them and checking in with them to see how people can help the Ukrainian people as they're going through this unbelievable war with Russia.
It's unbelievable. The Halo Trust really is a legacy that Prince Harry has carried on and turned it almost into an iconic cause. Yeah. Those photographs, both of Diana and of Harry, are really iconic. And it's really helped to raise awareness for the work that they're doing. And I do think that anybody raising awareness and supporting the Ukrainian people at this point is so important and valuable to them. And I also imagine that those people in this really dire circumstance maybe feel a little bit special to be supported by these people, someone in such a high place of power is thinking of them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Everybody's taking notice and everybody's praying and hoping and doing what they can. So yeah, it's great that they're giving back. And more news coming out from Harry and Meghan is that Meghan is gearing up to release her debut podcast this summer. Now, this comes a little over a year after she and Prince Harry signed a reported $25 million deal with Spotify. Now, there has been some controversy. This podcast was delayed for a little while because of a lot of COVID misinformation that was being released by some of the other podcasts on Spotify, but they seem to have worked that out.
Yeah, this does seem to be a story that never ends in the sense that we keep getting twists and turns and new drips of information. One thing that was interesting about the recent statement is that they've said it's Meghan's podcast. They didn't mention Prince Harry, and I think he was initially involved in the project. But I do believe it's meant to spotlight strong female voices. So it would make sense if Meghan kind of spearheads that project. Really exciting. I do hope that we can hear the first real episode very soon, because I know a lot of people are looking forward to it.
Right. Yeah. We had that one episode back in 2020, right around the holidays. when they released that. And it was very like, celebrity interviews and things like that. So, but like you said, it's probably going to be focused more on strong women, probably a celebrity tie-in. Who knows, but definitely something that we're all going to be listening to.
Definitely.
All right. Well, speaking of new jobs, Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, is now the patron of the National Theater, a title that was previously held by Meghan. Now, this makes the first of Meghan's patronages to be handed over to another member of the royal family. I feel like this has been, they left a while ago, so didn't move too fast. Moving over the patronage.
Yeah, definitely. I think with COVID, they've kind of just let this lie for a while. It's not like there was any ability to go out and visit the patronages.
Very true.
But I think the National Theater was one of the organizations that was most disappointed in the representation that they were getting from the royal patron. I think it was a great opportunity for Meghan, but obviously when she stepped away, it wasn't her place to, represent them or be their patron anymore. But I hear Camilla has been interested in being the royal patron for a really long time. So I think she's really excited about it. National Theater is really excited to have someone represent them. So I think it's a great partnership.
Yeah. And I wonder how the rest of the patronages that Meghan had, she had 4 of them, how they will be dispersed to the other members of the royal family. So we'll have to wait and see. Kate took over the rugby, one from Prince Harry not too long ago. So it seems like they're slowly starting to divvy those out.
Right, exactly. We're slowly starting to see those being picked up again. And again, I'm sure those organizations are really keen to have someone represent them.
Definitely. All right. Well, now it is time to spill the royalty. And let's continue our talk about Prince Harry and Meghan, because there are rumors that they will be in attendance on this Sunday's Oscars. Now, The Sun reports that they may present the award for Best Picture. However, they had reportedly been lined up to initially present the award for Best Actress, but the plan was scrapped because Kristen Stewart is, of course, nominated for her role as Princess Diana in Spencer, a film about the life of Princess Diana. So probably would be a little awkward if she won.
Terribly awkward.
But yes, very, very awkward. But what do we think about this? Do you think that Harry and Meghan will be making an appearance? I mean, presenting the last award of the night, kind of a big deal. But all of this in the midst of him not going to the memorial has people talking.
Right. I mean, it would definitely be a huge opportunity for them. And we know, they did attend those military awards, and forgive me, I forget the name, but I think that was more because of Harry's really strong support of the military veterans and their families. Mm-hmm. So I will be so interested to see if they do this, because obviously acting is something that Meghan was hugely passionate about. I think it will be, again, really, really interesting to see if they do attend in light of them not attending other high profile events. But again, I suppose that the security at the Oscars would be huge.
Right.
But then again, security at these, like at Prince Philip's memorial would also be, really, really secure.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure it'll be a much talked about event if they do show up. I mean, it already is. All right. Well, this is a crazy, crazy story. So actor Simon Rex said on Twitter that years ago, a British tabloid offered him a significant sum of money to claim that he had romantic relations with Meghan Markle. So he said that he declined the offer, and he retweeted a post from another account that included an excerpt from an interview that he recently did with The Guardian. He said to the magazine, UK tabloids offered Simon Rex $70K to claim that he had slept with Markle, with whom he appeared in the sitcom Cuts. Now, their off-screen interactions never got further than one platonic lunch. Now, the tweet read, "I was broke as F. I really needed the money, but I'll be on food stamps before I do that." Now, he confirmed the claims on Twitter, and he wrote, "This is true. And I framed the thank you letter she wrote me. She has very nice penmanship, by the way." This is crazy how the British tabloids, obviously she's had a long standing, disagreements with them, to say the least, for quite some times, but it's crazy the lengths that they would go to make up a story about her.
This is the second or third time I've heard, especially this very specific £70,000 figure, which is a lot of money. But it really goes to show that, the British tabloid culture is really toxic. There's definitely a reason why Meghan and Harry have such an issue with it, but just unbelievable. It makes you worry about how many stories you're hearing in the media that aren't true.
Right. That's so true. Yeah. It's like what's the line between truth and false? It's kind of blurry when it comes to stories about them. So I would imagine, I understand why she's always so frustrated with them, publishing stories that are not true and going to her friends to try to bribe them into saying things that are false.
Right. Unbelievable.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, Netflix is set to start filming the 6th season of The Crown. Very exciting. So they're set to start filming in August, and the production is already looking for 2 actors to portray Prince William and Prince Harry. If you look like him, maybe go and check out the casting call. The Crown casting associate Kate Bone put out a casting call saying that she's seeking 2 actors with a strong physical resemblance to portray the brothers, and it seems like they're going to be in the teenage years. So this, this is definitely going to be an interesting season.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. We don't really know the timeline of this season, but if William and Harry are in their teenage years, that means it's probably post, Diana's tragic death, maybe William entering university. I think the internet will fall apart if they start searching or casting for a Kate,
Yes.
Then we'll really know what's going on in season 6. But it's going to be, I'm really excited to see how this plays out. I hope that they're respectful, because when you start dealing with characters that are still alive and still very much active, it's really difficult.
It really is. And season 5 is going to be released in November. You forget that it's been so long since the last season was out. I believe season 6 is the final season. So it'll be interesting to see how they wrap it up and where in the time frame they kind of close the chapter on The Crown.
Yeah, definitely. It's been such an iconic show for so long. And now with so much time in between 4 and 5, I think it's really going to, be an impactful couple of seasons.
Definitely. All right. Well, The Sun is reporting that senior Buckingham Palace aides have launched a major military-style planning operation aimed at getting the Queen to Prince Philip's memorial service using helicopter and privacy screens. The Sun on Sunday understands senior staff will arrange to fly Her Majesty by helicopter on a 15-minute trip from Windsor to Buckingham Palace, which makes sense. We're going to talk a little bit more about this with Stuart in just a second, but it seems like they are going into a lot of planning to make her feel comfortable as she travels.
Yeah, I think that this is just a case where they are going to do absolutely everything to get her there. It is so important for her to be there and to be as comfortable as she can be. It just shows what a priority it is for her to be at this service.
Definitely. And like I said, it is time to break down the royal rules. And to help us do that is the author of Princess Diana, The Voice of Change, Stuart Pearce, who's going to tell us a little bit more about this military style operation and why Prince Harry's book is not a burn book. So take a look at this. Obviously, the Queen's health is still a topic of conversation. What have you heard and how is she doing?
Well, she's actually really well, in terms of the sense of the way that her constitution at the age of 96 is functioning, apparently, according to the doctors. The issue is that as a result of this acute calcification in her lumbar vertebrae, that she's finding it very difficult to move, which is immensely frustrating for the mobility of the Queen, meaning that she, not just physiologically, but emotionally, mentally, she's extraordinarily capable, independent, and mobile. So it's stopping her from driving, it's stopping her from riding, it's stopping her from, just the simple thing of gaining independent access to a staircase. It looks as though we're going to see her in a wheelchair. And that's going to be a huge shift of consciousness for Her Majesty, because she's always shown this fearless and powerful independence. And so the very fact that she is having to give her power away, as it were, to that level of mobility, the wheelchair, rather than being able to motor herself down the aisle at Westminster Abbey, is very concerning. The Queen Elizabeth is not looking very well from that point of view, apparently overall her health is very robust for a 96-year-old, but there is this issue of mobility. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we can pray for a miracle.
Right. So you think at Philip's memorial coming up next week, she will probably be, there have been some reports that they're trying to have, put together a plan of how that she's going to get there, whether that be by helicopter, by car, but it seems like probably they'll do the quickest thing if she is wheelchair bound.
Yes, because, after all, it's a drive of 30 miles from Windsor Castle into the centre of London to the venue. It's Westminster Abbey, I think, isn't it? where it's taking place, which is the Sovereign's Church. So most major activities such as this take place there. And then, of course, getting out of the car and walking all the way down, it's almost a quarter of a mile, all the way down the aisle of the Abbey. It's a very ancient medieval building. So I think she's going to be flown in via helicopter and then supported by a wheelchair. But let's wait and see. You know, maybe she will muster and have a miraculous recovery so that she can be. Or, you know, maybe there's another way of her being able to gain access, whether it's to do with the fact that, you know, that she is taken a back route by a wheelchair and then she walks just a few paces and they create pomp and circumstance around that change of mobility. We'll have to wait and see. As usual, Buckingham Palace is being extraordinarily quiet. And I think it's largely to do with the great changes that have taken place within the constitution per se of the royal family. So to look from the micro to the macro, because after all, there were huge eruptions as a result of Harry and Meghan deciding to move on their campaign of liberation, much more severely so, all the shenanigans around Prince Andrew, which seems to have been resolved in the most extraordinary way, and Prince Philip's passing, and now the Queen. And so we really are looking at the chronicle of changing times. And this is sending shockwaves through the British nation, because everybody really is steeling themselves for the possibility that this icon or archetype of constancy is possibly going to be leaving us. And in a time, as we were just discussing, you know, after 2 years of the global pandemic, moving into this terrible war that is on the brink of expanding throughout Europe and possibly elsewhere. I'm talking about the terrible conflict in Ukraine, that everybody is feeling very uncertain anyway. So it's time for our prayers, I believe.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I know the royal family has been, you know, doing what they can in supporting of Ukraine. I know Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they recently donated to a bunch of support organizations. The Queen and Prince William and Prince Charles have also spoken out. But what do you make of Prince Harry deciding to opt out of going to the memorial? And does that send shockwaves through the royal family? Or was that almost expected?
Well, as a result of this culture of uncertainty, I believe that the security forces have advised him not to attend, purely and simply because the level of disruption that has been created within the collective psyche as a result of the disturbance within the household, the exit point of Harry and Meghan, the establishment of their lives in California, the way that the British press are not positive about the whole establishment of their lives in California, that there are these small tremors moving through the collective psyche. And so I believe it's largely to do with the security officials, and that Harry is actually really down about not being able to attend this remarkable day in celebration of his grandfather, for whom he has tremendous love.
Yeah, so I would imagine that, like you said, Harry is probably disappointed that he cannot be in attendance. And, you know, there's all these rumors going around that, oh, you know, the security, and maybe Harry doesn't want to see his family because of this book that's coming out. And I know that Omid Scobie, who's a royal reporter, he said that this upcoming book will not be a burn book, as some would say. I mean, what have you heard about this? And do you think Harry would actually put out a burn book of sorts?
Well, I've always felt that the conduct of both Meghan and Harry all the way through this liberationist campaign has been forthright and candid, but I've never seen it to be disgraceful. I've never seen them to use expletives or rancor in relation to the substance of the emotional sway of the royal family. So I feel that the book won't have a burning mechanism within it, because after all, as I think we may have shared before, Harry's point of view, his perspective, has been formulated through 2.5 years of psychotherapy. And one of the essential tenets of psychotherapy is that once we begin to really identify what the crises are that has led to the unstable or unbalanced mental health within ourselves is that we begin to take full responsibility for crisis equals opportunity for change. So we don't start blaming people or accusing people. Rather, what we do is to seek insight and resolution. So I feel the book will actually be candid, but it won't be excoriating. It won't rip the skin off anybody or burn anybody. There's far too much delicacy going on there. And may I add also an honoring and a respect of the extraordinary function of the British royal family in the nation's estimation, and also, of course, within the intelligence of our global village.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the royal family is worried about this book at all? Or do you think Harry's had discussions about what he may be divulging in this book?
I'm sure he has, yes. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he has. If he were to be absolutely outrageous about something, he would always find the parameter of what that outrage is all about. So he may be living through the impetuosity that dear Diana had, but we never saw anything that she did to be callous or gross. Mm-hmm. She was forthright and she was true and she spoke her heart and her mind, but she was never, ever difficult about, being cruel and being crude about people. Right. And Harry carries the same level of sensitivity. Mm-hmm. So he can be impetuous, he can be brave, he can be courageous, he can be highly independent, as we see in this liberationist streak that he's developed with his dear wife. But at the same time, I don't see that he would ever be ungracious or rude. So he would always check out parameters.
Yeah, it feels like Harry is definitely taking a page out of Diana's book with, all these, the liberation, as you say. Yeah. I mean, it's measuring all of the psychological impulses, you see, because it's not just suddenly shooting a force over the brow of the royal family, using heavy emotional ammunition. It's actually about revealing what the truth of his experience was, because after all, from that very, very early age, he just sat on a tremendous amount of restriction. And what happened is it became a very challenging emotional detailing within his own being, as we saw. We saw the telltale signs when he was doing naughty things like appearing in an SS uniform, or swimming naked, surrounded by 20 other people in a pool in a hotel in Las Vegas. I mean, these were all the telltale signs of impetuous behavior, but there was nothing ever disgraceful about it because he always assumed that it was in private. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and always giving us such fascinating insight and perspective. It's always such a pleasure. Thank you.
Bless you. It's wonderful to be with you. Thank you.
Of course. And make sure, if you haven't yet, pick up Stuart's book, Diana, The Voice of Change. It is a wonderful read, and you will absolutely devour it. Stuart, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think Stuart makes a good point in saying, Harry went through a lot of therapy over the past 2.5 years. And this is kind of him putting that all on paper and figuring out like where he is in his life. And I don't think he's going to be taking specific aim at anybody in the royal family. I don't think that this is going out to get anybody, but it will, open up a lot of eyes to see what he has been through over the past, 30 plus years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can really tell that he's been to therapy, that he's worked through so many things just with everything that's happened in the last few years. So it'll be really interesting to see what he wants to share with the world at this point.
Definitely. All right. Well, before we wrap up, let's check in on our royal kids. And sources tell us weekly that Prince George is gearing up to be king one day. We hear his confidence has grown leaps and bounds over the last couple of years. He's assertive, self-assured, and knows what he wants and doesn't hold back on speaking his mind. His personality is really starting to shine. Sounds like a typical 8-year-old. The future monarch, however, is still a fun-loving kid with a cute, mischievous side. And the insider adds he likes to play pranks on his parents and siblings and making everyone laugh. Despite the responsibilities he'll entail in his future role, Kate and William don't want to see him grow up too quickly. They're determined to give him as much of a normal childhood as possible, and it's working wonders. He's such a lovable, down-to-earth little boy. It's clear Prince William and Kate are raising him well. Yes. I mean, from the little things that we see, it seems like they are raising him very well.
Absolutely. It's amazing. You never hear anything bad about these children. You always hear that they're polite, they're lovable, they're kind. Every once in a while, you hear them that they're cheeky and they love to play pranks. But I think that, like you said, that's every 8-year-old, that's every 8 or 6-year-old.
Yes, definitely. And it seems like they're raising him right. And, not a conventional upbringing. It's not going to be normal for him. I mean, it's always going to be hanging over his head that one day he will be king. But I think that they will prepare him as best as they possibly can.
Yeah. And it is interesting to see they're trying so hard to give him certain normal experiences, like spending his pocket money on a Friday afternoon after school. But at the same time, that one day he'll be the king of England.
100%. It's gotta be strange. It has to be a weird thing. Yeah. All right. Well, Christine, thank you so much for running down all things royals with me, as always.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Keep commenting, keep subscribing, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.